Hey there everyone, I'm Dan Harris, host of the FantasyPros Football Podcast. Thanks for checking out our video series. Today we're going to be talking about my top 5 sleepers and my top 5 busts for week 2 of the 2020 fantasy football season. Alright, let's start with our sleepers here, and number 5 is Preston Williams. Devontae Parker reportedly has a chance to play against the Bills, but given that he aggravated his existing hamstring injury in week 1, it seems doubtful. It's not a good matchup with the Bills, of course, as Williams is likely going to be shadowed by Tre'Davious White if Parker does miss the game. But Ryan Fitzpatrick is not going to shy away from throwing to Williams regardless of who's guarding him. And Williams saw 7 targets in week 1 and had 6 catches for 82 yards in his lone game against the Bills last year. Williams is a volume play this week who should be able to produce despite a tough Bills pass defense. At number 4, it's Logan Thomas. Look, there just aren't that many sleepers at the tight end position, but someone to keep an eye on is Thomas, and it's for 2 reasons. First, he saw 8 targets against the Eagles on Sunday, 8, which is a number that cannot be ignored for a tight end, particularly when he turns one of them into a touchdown. And second, he is facing the Cardinals. Start your running backs against the Panthers, start your tight ends against the Cardinals. Seriously, those are the 2 golden rules of fantasy football. Thomas should have a fine game in week 2. At number 3, it's Emmanuel Sanders. Everyone is really excited about Tre'Quan Smith now that Michael Thomas is likely to miss this week with an ankle injury. But how about the actual number 2 receiver for the Saints and the guy who scored a touchdown in week 1, Emmanuel Sanders? The Raiders defense is hardly intimidating, and you'd expect Sanders to now play more than the 49% of snaps he saw last week. And remember, he still saw 5 targets in that limited time, and that was with Michael Thomas on the field. Expect that number of targets to rise closer to 7 or 8, giving Sanders plenty of value this week. At number 2, it's Scotty Miller. You know what's bad? When you're put into the concussion protocol because you develop symptoms midweek. That is exactly what happened with Chris Godwin after he took a vicious hit to the head at the end of the game against the Saints. It's going to be hard for Godwin to play against the Panthers in week 2 now, which opens the door up for Miller. Tom Brady has been effusive in his praise for Miller, and the youngster caught 5 of his 6 targets for 73 yards in week 1. Even if Godwin does play, as we saw in week 1, there's still room for Miller to produce. That's especially true against a soft defense like Carolina's, and with a likely embarrassed Tom Brady looking to make amends. At number 1, it's Ronald Jones. You remember what I just said about the rule about starting your running backs against the Panthers. Jones didn't just lead the Tampa Bay backfield in touches in week 1 against the Saints, he looked good doing it. New Orleans has an incredibly strong rush defense, and 19 touches for 82 yards is an impressive number for Jones. He ran hard and decisively, and he earned himself the lead role again in week 2, and that is a good thing because the Bucs take on the Panthers, as I just said, and they had a historically bad run defense last year and just gave up 3 rushing touchdowns to Josh Jacobs. Jones's long-term future is not secure, but his week 2 spot definitely is. Alright, let's turn now to our week 2 busts, and let's begin at number 5 with Malcolm Brown. Now, Brown was, or he at least should have been, one of the top waiver wire ads of the week. But Brown is the guy you add and you want to see it happen again before you're willing to just roll him out as a starter. If you roster Brown, the hope is he once again clearly looks like the best back on the Rams and carves out a bigger role for himself going forward. But don't start him over your more established options just yet against the Eagles in week 2. It's not a great matchup, and there's still plenty of uncertainty. At number 4, it's Will Fuller. Fuller was great against the Chiefs. All the snaps, all the targets, all the air yards. He looked every bit the part of a number 1 wide receiver. But this is Baltimore, and they eat wide receivers for breakfast. Whether Fuller draws Marlon Humphrey or Marcus Peters, he's going to have his hands full. Fuller can always break one. He's extremely talented, and he is an outstanding quarterback in Deshaun Watson. But the bust potential is high against a strong Ravens defense. At number 3, it's Melvin Gordon. Gordon lost a fumble against the Titans, but otherwise looked really, really good, making defenders miss consistently and scoring a touchdown. Now with Phillip Lindsay out with turf toe, the road is cleared for Gordon, who dominated touches from Royce Freeman after Lindsay left the game. But did you see Saquon Barkley trying to run against the Pittsburgh defense? 6 yards on 15 carries. Gordon will surely beat that, but he likely won't match Barkley's 60 yards receiving. If you have to start Gordon, of course, do so, but it's a prime bust spot. At number 2, Terry McLaurin. I love Terry McLaurin. He is an outstanding wide receiver, albeit one with a mediocre quarterback at best. But he's likely going to be shadowed by Patrick Peterson, who, despite his advancing age, remains one of the better cornerbacks in the league. McLaurin was shadowed by Darius Slay in Week 1, and he was generally held in check. There's a good chance we see a similar or worse line against the Cardinals and Peterson in Week 2. And finally, your number 1 bust, Darius Slayton. It was quite the Monday night performance from Slayton, who topped 100 yards receiving and 2 scores against a very tough Steelers defense. He'll get another tough test this week against the Bears, who just constantly limit wide receivers since last year. Golden Tate may also return here, which should further spread around the targets for the Giants. And we have seen Slayton have big games last year and then disappear the following week. The Bears just limit big plays, and both Kyle Fuller and Jalen Johnson are more than competent. Be excited to roster Slayton, but the bust potential is high against the Bears. Thanks for checking out our video series. Make sure to leave in the comments section who your top busts and your top sleepers are for Week 2 of the season. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel here at youtube.com/FantasyPros and follow us over on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at FantasyPros so you don't miss any of the great content that we're going to be producing all season long.